This video and Infinity Wars Classic are brought to you by our amazing Patreon supporters. Find out more at infinitywarsclassic.com and enjoy the video. 8 competitors step up to the challenge to prove they are the best at Infinity Wars Classic. One by one, they are eliminated until one of them is crowned the champion, also gaining the ultimate prize, food! This is Lightmare's Infinity Wars Classic internal tournament. We have our 4 semi-finalists ready to jump into their matches to see who will make it into the final round. First off, we have Coil versus Corey. And here we are, Founder versus the Future, Coil versus Corey, both going with the 2 Sleepers of Avarak, 1 Cult of Raw Purity mix. Seems to be one of the more favourite Purity types we've got at the moment. Currently watching over Corey's perspective, decides that he's going to throw down the diseased zombie on the Death Worshipper. Those Death Worshippers can get super strong if not dealt with quickly. Jumping over to Coil's screen, and his recording seems to have broken a little bit, so we'll have to play some slow updates on his end. He's just going to throw the Risen of Avarak out, probably into the Assault Zone, get some easy damage down. He doesn't necessarily want to trade into the Infected Zombie too early. That's 4 damage, traded for 6. And that also kills off the Death Worshipper, so already Coil down to only 1 commander left. But still looking pretty good for the cards in hand. Is going to throw out the Evolving Parasite, actually. One of the notorious cards from the olden days of Infinity Wars, seemingly working a lot better nowadays, thankfully. Corey does have Nero, Crypt Delver there as well. Will potentially start making some value. Lightning Blast will come out. Is he going to be using Nero's ability here, or potentially just going with the Zombie Scavenger? Or potentially both, I think he can do as well. Nope, just goes with the Zombie Scavenger for now. Zombie Blast kills the Risen of Avarak. Extra 4 damage down, and another 2. Puts him at 90 to 94. Coil has a lot more cards in hand at the moment. Needs to find ways to actually get those bad boys out on the field though. They're not doing a whole lot of good in the hand at the moment. Lightning Blast coming down onto the Evolving Parasite. If you can clean that up before it gets into its first trade, that's usually a good thing. We'll see if he can do that. Nero is going to be killing off Rita's Thrall as well, generating just a little bit of extra value for it, and getting Nero's trigger as well, which is always super useful. Goes extra damage coming out. Coil deciding not to block with his Evolving Parasite, so that's still there on the support line, ready to potentially take a hit and transform into something. We'll see what he decides to go with. Martyr Golem coming out, good choice to potentially soak a little bit of extra damage. Going to be killing off the Zombie Scavenger to grow just a little bit stronger themselves. Martyr Golem doesn't really need to do anything besides sit in the support zone to get some value, and in comes, I believe that's the Acid Rain, so everything's going to start taking a little bit of damage at the end of each turn now, for whatever survives this battle. Easy trade, Death Worshipper also gets a little bit stronger, Martyr Golem taking most of that damage there, and manages to stay alive. Looking at Coil's hand, he's got a few options. Did actually recently pick up the Avarak is Risen, so now all he needs to do is make it through to having 12 energy, and it's basically the end of the game. Can he get to that point, though? Corey decides that he wants to trigger the Martyr Golem effect, and throws out the Aletta Immortal Sufferer as well. He's looking at what else he could potentially do here. Disease Zombie. Is going to throw out the Martyr Golem into the actual field, interestingly enough. We'll see how that plays out. Actually plays out quite well. Disease Zombie killed off by the Acid Rain, and Corey doing well to establish his field just that little bit stronger right now. Is going to be throwing out the, I believe that's the It's not infect. It's something. It's a Cult of Aurora spell. Is going to potentially be taking some heavy hitters off the board. I think it's probably going to be targeting the Death Worshipper about now. Not a bad choice. Zombie coming out, and the Firebolt just to clean up some of the annoying sleeper cards that are coming out at the moment. Whoop does change his mind. Wants to get rid of the Evolving Parasite. Not too bad. Is looking at the Acid Rain. Not 100% sure if they want to play that at the moment. We'll see what they do. Is just going to use the Trading Post, draw an extra card, and resolve the turn. So there goes a letter. Is destroyed there. Nero killing off his own token thing, just to generate a little bit of extra power. 6 damage down. And the Evolving Parasite does turn into the Death Worshipper as well. So now we're looking back at Agent Coil's screen now. His recording actually now working fantastically. Is starting to run a little bit lower on cards at the moment. Could potentially throw out... Yeah, he's just going to make a little mini Hoarder Zombie Peoples. See what he can manage with that. Does have a fairly beefy defense line right now. Just the Golem there that's going to be doing a lot of potential soaking, or at least, you know, potentially make pressing on an attack a little bit more difficult for Corey. Corey hasn't really got a fantastic selection of cards in his hand. Not 100% sure what he wants to do with this. Is looking at Nero. Could potentially throw him out about now. Last Initiate comes out. 6 energy left. He only really gets the chance to play one extra card here. If he plays out the Aether Acolyte, which he has, he can also... Yep, decides to throw Nero out into the Assault Zone. And I think that's going to instantly just knock over the Golem here. So that's already a lot of defensive pressure, just boop, gone. Let's see what else he can manage here. Death Worshipper starting to look pretty big, and it's only going to get bigger and bigger. Infest coming out onto Nero now that it's vulnerable. Does have a lot of the undead tokens now after the 4-drop that he played last turn. Throwing most of those into the Assault Zone. Just going to chip away at Corey's defenses and his health a little bit. Throwing out a Martyr Golem as well, always an important card to absorb a little bit extra damage. Keep your things alive a little longer. Let's see what he decides to go with here. Corey at 9 energy. Infected Pack Leader, not too bad of an option. But the Acid Rain could potentially come in handy when dealing with all of those zombie tokens. That's also a decent option. So let's go Infected Pack Leader. There we are. Infest destroys Nero. Gets a second trigger. Battle resolving. The Aether Acolyte is going to absorb a bunch of those little guys, but it's not going to stop the Death Worshipper at the end, who's going to get a good chunk out there. Corey now down to 62 health. 10 energy on his side. He's going to play out the Bloody Undead. Feast or Fiend. Not too bad of an option, but the Acid Rain would come in very handy about now to potentially clean up whatever happens. Oh, so deciding the order of how everything's going to look. Meanwhile, we take a look at Coil's screen. He's just going to go for the increase in resources. He just needs to do that twice, and then he's got it. That's all he needs to do, and he knows this. Looking Disease Zombie can potentially play that out. He's just going to target the Reader's Thrall, why not? If he doesn't do anything interesting with it, that's just going to be an easy kill there at the end of the next turn. Not a huge play, just reorganizing his battlefield at the moment. The egg, keep that at the back, I guess. Not too bad of an option. Let's see how we go. Acid Rain comes out. Everything is now going to be taking a little bit of extra damage. That includes the Thrall, who's going to be taking extra damage. Death Worshipper getting stronger and stronger. A huge board wipe coming out there. Agent Coil now on 11 resources. Board is suffering. Meanwhile, Corey has decent board, but he doesn't really have any cards in hand, so it's going to be hard for him to stay on top of this. So Coil did increase his resources there, but at the end of that he was also looking at his Wealthy Noble, so we'll see if he decides to change up his play. Corey throwing out whatever he can into the defense zone. Doesn't want to have to deal with that Death Worshipper, who's potentially going to just clean him up. Is finally going to... Whoop, nope, decides not to play that card and wants to draw another one instead. Not too bad of an option. You don't want to start next turn with only one card in hand. It's not where you want to be. Okay, so he does decide to instead play out the Flames of War and the Wealthy Noble, which will put him to 12 resources next turn. 30 damage now coming out. Corey now left on 32 health. This is not where you want to be. Eaten by zombies just in time is going to potentially take care of that annoying little threat. A letter also came back from the dead, as did 2 Risen of Avarok, so his board looking better than it was at the start of the turn. Got completely wiped, but thankfully, with a little bit of a revival mechanic, is able to come out of the other end of that. We don't necessarily need to look at Agent Coil's screen, because we know exactly what he's going to do this turn, and it's just going to be interesting to see it actually played out. Let's see how many cards he actually gets with the Risen of Avarok. Avarok is Risen, sorry. So eaten by zombies there, and that is a huge board that he's just built himself. And I don't think Corey has any ways to deal with it. And yep, that is actually Corey surrendering at that point. Good game, well played. The winner for this round is Agent Coil. As the first finalist, founder and financier of his friends fighting fiercely, Agent Coil takes the win and is now 1 win away from glory. Now let's see who he'll be taking on next week, as we have Nadine versus Ruben. Now jumping into Ruben versus Nadine, we have a bit of a different purity mix-up this time than we've seen in the previous, where instead of the usual 2 sleepers, 1 Cult of Varroa mix that we've been seeing, or the 2 COV 1 sleepers, as we're actually seeing out of Ruben, we've actually got a mix of 1 Cult of Varroa and 2 Genesis coming out from Nadine here. Bit of a meta breaker at the moment. We'll see if they manage to make something interesting happen with that. Turn 1 already gone. Lightning Bolt already used on a Death Worshipper. Good to get those out of the way as soon as possible. Meanwhile, Ruben looking at Thunder Apprentice. Also manages to draw into an infected, diseased zombie. Nadine deciding that she wants to play Death Ray against the Hakim. Now that's not actually going to trigger, because it needs to be on the battlefield, and there's no way that they're going to play a 7 cost card on turn 3, so that's a bit of a miscalculation or misreading of the card. Disease Zombie, good to get an infection down on the Death Worshipper. Good to deal with that sooner rather than later. Lightning Thunder Apprentice comes in. Wait, no, that's Aether Acolyte, I believe. Either way, 7 damage down. Nadine off to not too bad of a start, besides the little Death Ray incident there. Ruben looking at Infectious Transfusion is going to be able to get a lot of damage. Also played out the Hellkeeper and instantly gets value out of it, as we see one of the demons already drawn. Not too bad, not too shabby, doing well there so far. We'll see if there's anything else that they're going to do. Master Initiate, not too bad of a play. Jumping over to Nadine's screen. Thinking about playing out the Varroa Death Worshipper. Not too bad of an option. I mean, it will be making good use out of it in some way, shape or form, because it's already on death's door, essentially. And, there's not much that can be done to potentially stop that. Unless they want to try and infinitely ramp it up over time. Is instead going to be going with Desolate, I believe. Going to try and do some damage to things in the support zone. Most things moved out to go and attack. That's okay. is going to be just fine coming out the other side of that. Aetherite Light cleans up 2, and then the Thunder Apprentice gets through a little bit of a chunk of damage. We've been looking at Desolation. Why my guy's damaged. Don't worry, it's doing exactly what it needs to. 5 energy now. Looking at Immortal Sorcerer to play. Just a beefy little unit that, if it does die, it will eventually come back. So not too bad considering the value you could get there out of a longer game. Splitterbot and Raw Death Worshipper coming out at the moment. Everything they can do with the 5 resources, just going to make sure they are in the correct zones. Might be potentially looking to do a little bit of extra defending. Yep, does move them both into the defenses. There we go. Turn resolves. 4/4 cleans up the big hitter at the back. Flying Guy goes over the top, and Aletta takes a bit of a chunk from the Death Worshipper. So at the moment, we do have a bit of an advantage coming in the way of Ruben. Has a bit more control over the battlefield. Is one card down in the hand, but that's not going to make a whole lot of difference if they can keep that momentum going. Aletta Immortal Tinkerer going to be used to do some light buffing off to the side. Meanwhile, Ruben's screen is just going to clean those up with 2 lightning blasts. Wants to get rid of those as quickly as he possibly can. 4 resources left. Is going to play at the Bounty Hunter, it looks like. Can't afford anything on the trading post. Flutter, not too bad of a card, but can't afford it right now, so we'll have to wait and see if he plays that out later. Lightning Blast cleans up. Out comes the Desolation. Is going to do some damage to the Bounty Hunter in the back line. And the other Lightning Blast comes out as well. Complete control of the field right now in favour of Ruben. He's looking at the Immortal Tinkerer. Not 100% sure what they want to do with it. Does have the ability to use the Immortal Sorcerer to try and do some damage with their activated ability. Also does have the Death Ray, but you've got to predict when that's going to actually be used and played out. Hakeem the Corrupted. Now this is going to lead to a bunch of extra people coming into the support zone if it actually triggers off correctly, which I'm assuming it will. Nadine actually managing to play out the Aletta. I'm not 100% sure if that's the right choice, but we'll see what it does. Is going to also exhaust herself in order to use that ability. So won't be getting a whole lot in terms of value for defending this upcoming attack. Looking at what else they have as options. I think it's getting their turn there. Yep, they do. Gives a little buff to support drone thing. Hakeem coming out and resurrecting a bunch of his peoples. Support drone doing a buff back. A lot of extra damage coming out as well, bringing him down to 49 health. 49 to 93. Nadine in a very bad spot at the moment. Tries to find some answers to this flying unit. Does have 3 units with flying in hand at the moment, but they can't do anything from the hand. Needs to actually play those out. He's going to be choosing these and wants to buff up the support drone again. Interesting. We'll see how that actually turns out. I feel like they should definitely be defending right now rather than buffing, but that's okay. And it doesn't look like it'll matter that much because we've got the Death Ray coming out as well as an extra little bit of damage coming from the Aletta activated ability. And I think Ruben's just going to go 100% at face right now. There's actually a chance that he's got lethal this turn if he's played it correctly. We'll see what he's capable of doing if the math adds up. If not, they're definitely going to put them on almost no health. So either way, this game is essentially almost over. Let's see how it actually resolves. Damage coming out. There are no defenders in the way, and everything's just going to knock through. Down to 37, down to 27, down to 16, down to 11, down to 7, down to 3, and that looks like it's game. Good game, well played, and your winner and the next finalist will be Ruben. And just like that, the tournament favourite picks up another win, breezing through the semi-finals. Tune in next time for our season finale as we come into the final matchup, Agent Coil versus Ruben Covington, where the winner will walk away with ultimate glory and an all-expense-paid, Uber Eats probably. Massive thank you to our amazing patrons for making content like this and Infinity Wars Classic itself possible, with a special shout out to our biggest supporters: Aaron M, Apollo P, Arcadian Adventure, Canon Tempest, Chris S, Crom XH, David S, Florian R, Glenn M, Helbin, J M, Jesse G, John M, Matthew S, Nathaniel P, Parker, Sticky Hams, Terrence C, Tinfoil Mark 4, Valgram, Zima, and Zimmy. You can join the Patreon campaign today and get a series of special perks and access to Infinity Wars Classic. Simply head on over to infinitywarsgame.com. All the best, and we'll see you in the next video.